Oh, I'm so. Hey guys, what's up?
Also, me and Steph fully like peace signed in sync.
I'm a loser,
That's
and
what's
I
gonna
didn't
keep
catch it.
happening, you know. The more
I was still reeling from what Catherine said backstage. Okay.
And it's all this one's fault.
I'm so. Okay, sorry.
You know the part.
Okay, sorry. I'm still like kind of laughing that we were like, oh yeah, let's just discuss 2 whole books in one live show. But it's fine. It's fine. Me trying to get the outline together. Ha! What a journey that was. Anyway, okay, hey guys, what's up? My name's Christine, one half of the Roomies Digest. If you're here for the House of Mass-A-Long. We're reading the books in Sarah J. Maas's wonderful Winter Wonderland, aka her yeah, exactly. These two. This is what we're discussing today. Tower of Dawn and Empire of Storms. Arguably 2 700-page books that equate to how many pages we're going to have to be reading for Kingdom of Ash.
Literally
Anyway.
insane. Insanity.
I know. I was like,
just an easy
what?
Just an easy 1300. Okay, wait.
In a casual 4 weeks or however long we took.
Christine, did you tandem read it?
Oh, I did, and it was fantastic.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
It was great. It just made such a difference, I think, because the first time I read it, I didn't remember any of the things that were happening like at the time. Does that make sense? Because I read Empire of Storms first, and then by the time Tower of Dawn came out, I was like, okay, what happened? Because the whole entire plot of Empire of Storms, I feel like the beginning of that book is 1,000 years after the end of
so
that book.
much happens.
Yeah. Yeah, like literally so much. And so like as I'm going through both of the books, honestly, I would find myself liking Tower of Dawn more because not as much was happening. It was more contained. Whereas Empire of Storms, it was like page after page after page. Stuff was just going on. And I was like, calm down, everybody. I know this is the second to last book almost, but like, my God, what's going on in the House of Commons? And I forgot everything. So thank you, brain. Amazing. Yeah, it was a good time. But I will say my one thing that I would say so far is that Man in Blackbeat is still that bitch. Okay, she is still that bitch.
She is.
I was like tearing up. I was tearing up at her parts. We'll get into it, but like these 2 books actually did like I was crying. I was having visceral reactions. And it was a fun time. So anyway, enough about me. How did you guys fare? How was it? Let me know.
Okay, I mean, y'all know because I texted you at 4 a.m. this morning when I finished Empire of Storm.
Amazing.
Insane. So obviously this is my first time reading them, so I haven't experienced reading them separately, but I'm so glad that I tandem read them because like it really didn't feel any different than just a change of POV. It just felt like there was a ton of POVs and it did feel like one continuous storyline because there would be reference, there'd be like news from wherever. I don't know the names of places.
Okay.
But like, oh yeah, we got news from so-and-so. This just happened. And I was like, I know that just happened because I just read about it. Yeah, this made me like the series, these books.
You know, 6 books in, and finally we're there.
It only took me, I mean, let's say 5 books in, but like, because this is 5 and 6, so, but yeah, these books made me actually like the series.
Oh No.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to say.
Call me crazy. I don't know. I just think that like if you didn't like Kale before, which obviously you did like him before, so like this doesn't
I'm
apply
a
to
Kale apologist. I have always thought Kale was that man. I loved him since day one.
You did. You did. I hated him though. So I remember when I read Tower of Dawn, I was liking it more than Empire of Storms. And I don't know if it's because of the setting, because in Tower of Dawn we get this in this entire different continent. You're the southern continent, right, with them.
Mhm.
And so like I think like the setting of that continent is just like so rich and like something that I really enjoy. Like it's definitely Mina inspired, and it's just like it's I don't know, just more like comforting when I read about that kind of a setting. So I just liked it so much more. And then I just felt like Kale's personality really had a chance to like have a redeeming plot line in this one for
Mhm.
some reason, even though he didn't do much, you know what I mean? Like he did stuff, but like, you know.
Oh, I mean, like literally. So we're talking about them as one. Can we talk about them as one entity? I can't even like
Yeah.
separate the two books, honestly. But yeah, so much of like literally Tower of Dawn is him fighting with his literal inner demon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so it's
Yes.
so internal. And we're getting information, we're getting info from like when Nezrin goes off with Surtak, which I honestly didn't care about Nezrin until she was like bye to Kale, because she just
Yeah, she
felt
was
like
just
a
like,
character. Yeah, she was a character there to be a like a love interest to Kale. And then she left Kale, and then she on it became interesting to me.
no, that's
But
totally valid. I feel like that's exactly how I feel too. Because like
yeah.
from the beginning, they had always said that they weren't like, they were always just like, oh, we're F buddies, basically. Like
Mhm.
we're friends, but like we don't mean anything to each other. And I felt like in the beginning of Tower of Dawn, they were trying to like maybe, because this really
Yeah.
serious thing had happened to Kale, they were trying to
Mhm.
maybe be more and like be each other's rock. And it's like ultimately, obviously, they weren't meant to be.
Yeah. I saw Steph make a face when I said I didn't like Nazareth at the beginning.
It's like, loser.
I love her. I love her. The moment she said in Queen of Shadows, "All hail the queen," I was like, "This bitch."
And she still
This
is saying that.
bitch.
Mhm.
She's still saying that in Tower.
Yeah, because it was like a moment of like, even though Kale was going through his stuff with Selena, Aelin, she was like, "What? I don't really care about your feelings because this is how I feel," and it just showed me that she has her own autonomy. She was making her own choices. She has her own thought process on this whole situation, and I'm glad they didn't end up together. It's actually very funny because I did not tandem read these, but in the Discord, I I was like 20% maybe into Tower of Dawn, and I was like, wait, so Nezrin and Kale don't end up together, because I went into this thinking that they ended up together. I don't know. I didn't know about Irene, and I don't know. I'd been spoiled for a lot of the couples, but for some reason it went over my head, and I was like, okay, I can deal with that. Because like I don't dislike Kale. Like even going into this, I didn't dislike him. And I've said this before, like he's just very frustrating and he can be very annoying to me. And I think he had a lot of like growing up to do. And at the end of Queen of Shadows, before, everything happens, when him and Aelin have that moment of like sort of healing, but then you see in Tower of Dawn that obviously he needed a little more healing from their relationship. I was like, okay, I understand him more, and it made me like him again as much as I liked him in the beginning, I guess. But like, I still think he's a very boring character in some ways in comparison to all of the characters that we have in in the playing field, he can be kind of a boring character. But I kind of like that because going from Empire of Storms as not tandem reading it, like in the breakneck pacing, which I didn't mind, like it was really fun, but it was nice to have like a reprieve going to Tower of Dawn and like healing with him or whatever. But I will say I have a weird feeling on magical healings. So I have like a weird time with that and a weird, like, I don't know how I feel about all of that in the end, the whole magical healing from a disability, etc.
I was thinking about that the whole time too. Yeah, I don't know, because I feel like in some ways in Tower of Dawn, like she does hit on the notes of like using a chair is empowering for him as a character, because he's standing up and he's like, I don't need help, like I can do these things by myself. I think she does hit on those notes in the book, but ultimately, I mean, obviously these are spoilers, but ultimately he ends up being able to walk again and use a cane and that type of thing. So,
well, yes and no, because then in the end, he can walk, but then he also, like, depending, and now like that's all tied to Irene. So there's going to be days where he can walk. There's going to be days where he has to use a cane. There's going to be days where he like fully has to use a chair.
Yeah, I think
and so I like that there was still some aspect of that, and he like was okay with that. And he was like, no, this isn't gonna like stop me from doing what I need to do.
Yeah, I feel like the only redeemable aspect for me in regards to that specifically was the fact that I think by like the 30% mark, we were getting to the point where Irene is saying like, this is rehabilitation. And so that was more, I felt like that was a better way of approaching it, I guess, than being like, she's going to magically heal you. Like she was telling him that you have to go through the process of healing, not only physically, like keeping up with your stamina and your exercises, but also mentally, which I appreciated that conversation. And I was just a little frustrated at first because we do have a moment where he does heal and he can walk again. And it was really only that he would potentially have to use the cane here and there. And then the situation happens where he basically, all of his progress regressed and now he's tied to Irene. So then it went back to like, yes, what you're saying, the empowering of using a chair and like knowing that some days are going to be harder than other days. So I appreciate that message. And I'm glad that it didn't go into that easy route of like him just being healed, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
It's like interesting because there's a quote in the beginning of the book. I remember marking it. And it basically just talks about how magic works. It's from Tower of Dawn, page 38. If anybody wants to read it. But essentially it's just saying that like you can't use magic to bring people back to life. So that was like a hard line, right? Mm-hmm. Because in fantasy books and things like that, you have rules and some things with magic, like some things can't be broken. So when you read it, you're like, okay, this won't happen, or like this can't happen. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I remember when I read that, I was like, okay, you can't bring somebody back from the dead. Like you can save them from this, you know what I mean? Like illness or like whatever. So I think, I don't know. I feel like that was like foreshadowing in some ways. Because I'm just like, why would you lay out that line? Like, why would you say like hardcore, like you cannot do this? But like you might be able to save somebody, you know, from a spinal cord injury or like whatever. So very interesting. I love this.
Hill stands right.
The tandem reading was A+ experience. If they merged the books together, it would be too big. I would say that, but then we have Kingdom of Ash. Like literally we would just have Kingdom of Ash part 2. You know what I mean?
I did send
So-
y'all, there's someone rebound the books into one book, and it was crazy. It's so big.
Loki.
Yeah. I'm curious how they would split certain things, because we find out like 70-80% into Tower of Dawn that Maeve returned and had like faced off with Aelin. So I wonder how they bound it. Like how.
So they basically took the tandem read and reordered the chapters into the chapters of the tandem read.
Got it.
Because when you do the tandem read, you get to that point and you see the face off with you basically get to the end of Empire of Storm, and then you jump over to Kale and they're like, oh yeah, and this happened, and I guess she won, and but
Yeah.
you know what happened,
Okay.
and he's
Yeah,
like,
you're like,
well, thank God Aelin's
well-
okay, and you're like, no.
Well, that was like the crazy thing about the ending of Tower of Dawn in general. Like, I know we're skipping around, but the fact that they like have their armada and all of the healers, and like they're going hoping like, okay, we're gonna meet up with Aelin and we're gonna, you know, fuck some shit up. And they don't even know. They're like, oh, oops. shoot.
Yeah.
And that was like a theme throughout the whole entire book in Tower of Dawn, because they're saying the whole entire time, they're like, have you heard news? Have you heard from blah, blah, blah? Even when they find Falcon, who is the merchant that we meet like books and books ago. I feel like these two books were where all the random characters like finally showed up, and you were like, yes,
Yeah.
we're calling in all of our favors, and
I
everyone who was
yes.
ever mentioned will come back, you know, in these two books. But like,
That's
even
like
with
when
him-
Irene first like made her first appearance, I was like, I recognize that name. How do I
you
know
were
the
like,
name?
who is she?
And then
is
she
she?
brings up the paper the first time, and I was like,
Yeah.
she's the girl. She's the girl from Assassin's
Mhm.
Blade.
And the
And
thing is, in
then-
Assassin's Blade, her story wasn't even like that crazy either. You know what I mean? So like, and what I mean by that is, it's not like she was
Mhm.
like Ansel, where you're like, she's a betrayer who's like in the
Yeah.
silent assassin. You know what I mean? Like, I
Well,
feel like her
Ansel was
story
there
was
too.
very-
And then Ansel shows up.
Honestly, when Ansel came on screen, I was like,
She's a traitor! Like, yes.
Oh man.
yeah, I did have to like think hard about who Irene was, because I was like, I know this person, and then I
Yeah.
realized Assassin's Blade.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean by like in Assassin's Blade, whenever they mention like a random person, I'm like, this is literally the key to the rest of the series. Like, all of these random people that are showing up are obviously later on down the line showing up. In this one and in Empire of Storms. So it was just really crazy. Also, this is a side note, but Tower of Dawn was originally supposed to be a novella, which is so funny to me.
Yeah, I heard that right before it was like being published, that she was gonna do a novella.
This girly.
But like, it makes sense, not the novella. It makes sense to have Kale's story, because, and like, listen, I was someone who did not want to read Tower of Dawn, because I was like, whatever, I don't care about his story. But first, I really enjoyed it. But secondly, it would have been weird for him to come back and have all of this information about like Maeve and the spiders, and like having been married and then like tied to his wife in more than just marriage. Yeah, it would be weird. when he was like, my wife, I was just like, God, of course.
Well, so it was great because literally, and I mean heartbreakingly, right before that, we get the "Where's my wife?" moment.
I passed away. And then it was like, they got married in a little tiny ceremony privately the night before. And I was like, are you joking me right now?
Well, and like I knew they were mates. Like no one's surprised about that situation, but the whole him coming in hot with the "Where's my wife?"
Oh my God, y'all. I was tearing up and I knew what was gonna happen. Like, what's my problem?
Sorry.
No.
You know what I was losing my shit over?
Which one?
Dorian.
Yeah.
Getting it on. I was like, you get a relationship and you get a relationship and you get a relationship. I was so excited.
People always
Like, we
say
all
that
knew
this.
it was coming, but
Oh.
like,
Yes. Hello. Hello,
With the
Princely. Hello,
chains.
Witchling. Fire. Fireworks. Fire. You get a relationship. You get a relationship.
well, and this is where it like goes from being YA to like this adult, like.
Yeah. What's funny is, okay, I have to tell you guys this because when I was rereading it, I told you guys I don't have a good memory for plot lines. I thought that Lysandra and Lorcan got together. So the whole time I'm reading Empire of Storms, I'm like, when do they get back together? He's spending a lot of time with the lead. I'm confused.
No,
literally they're like making out, and I'm like, oh.
And then Aelin is like,
Yeah,
I
no.
can marry you.
I
Yeah.
know. He literally, she's like a sea serpent in the water, and he's like, hey, how do you feel about being a princess? I'm like, you dumb idiot.
Lysandra is such a bad bitch.
I
really
love
is.
Lysandra so much.
She really is. And it's the fact that like she can't even stand him touching her at first.
And then he's
And
like,
he's
my wife.
yeah, and he's like, we are friends. Buddy.
So good. Well, I mean, like
I am not gonna attack
knew
you.
they had to get together because in the last one, what was the last book? Queen of Shadow. There's so many books in the series, yeah. And the one before these two, there's like that really great moment where like Lysandra is like watching Rowan and Aelin together and is like, I want something like that. And Adian's just like off to the side, like, cool.
Yeah. He's like,
Interesting
want
thought.
Aelin
How about
or
we?
a male version of her? What do you
Yeah,
think?
yeah.
I am a fae male. Hey. Also, I need Sarah to explain why Elid's last name is Locken and she gets with Lorcan.
Literally, all the names in this are,
you know, yeah, it's the same thing
rough.
with in Maeve's like little group when she replaces Rowan with Cairn. I'm like, okay, just say he's Kane. You know,
Yeah.
like he's literally the same character. Why?
Yeah. Well,
like,
and then
why?
there's Galvin and Gavin
Gabriel.
or Gabriel, whatever.
Yeah, that one got me. That's for sure.
Yeah. Oh, we remember. But then he shows up. The guy you were thinking of shows up.
He did come in the end. Yes, he did. And he's talking about I remember the fight of blah blah blah, and I'm like, what fight are you talking about? Obviously, it was like her, like I think it was her. I don't want to say ancestors, but like her grandpa or something. Somebody. It wasn't her, but it's essentially the equivalent of like in Game of Thrones when they're like the North remembers, you know. They're like Aelin Galathinius remembers.
That was
Whatever.
fun though, like seeing Adian try to navigate that he knows who his dad is.
Yeah, I feel like okay, so there's a lot going on in these books, obviously. I think a lot of the
where were they at the beginning of this? Hold on.
Wait, what? Oh,
there's just so much that happened, especially in this one.
Yes.
I was just gonna say I don't even remember where they started off with in this one because like where they end up.
So they start off with them going to the north. Okay, they're going to Terrasen, and they are trying to meet up with the Lords of Terrasen, which is a grand total of 3 dudes. Okay, it's Rin, who is like a young warthog. We've got Murtaugh, who is an older warthog, and then we've got Darrow, not to be confused with the main character of Red Rising. Okay, so they are going in their little troop to go and meet up with these lords because essentially Aelin is trying to take back Terrasen. So she wants to get the approval of these lords. And she thinks it's going to be cake money because she's like, I know Rin, we grew up together. Murtaugh used to feed me chocolates at the table. Darrow was in love with my great uncle and they had a fun secret relationship. So like, I've got this in the bag. But then, of course, she gets there and Darrow is a stick in the mud and he's like, I'm not going to give over this entire country to a 19-year-old assassin hoe who has 3 people in her court, one of which came from the enemy lines. Okay, and then obviously we all read that and we were like, what a freak. What a just a pimple on your face, you know? He is the worst. He made me want to kick things, even though I understand. Exactly. So then what does Aelin say? Let me just reenact the whole book.
Yeah, I'm loving this.
Aelin says, I am going to come whenever you call me, even though you've turned your back on me, and I'm going to bring thieves. I'm going to bring, criminals. I'm going to bring the silent assassins. I'm going to bring the freaking Ansel Briarcliff from the wastes. I'm even going to bring some witches, okay? And some other people, shapeshifters, fae. Who else? Other people, pirates. There we go. Pirates. All, okay? Pirates can be criminals, whatever. But anyway, so I think that was a nice moment because obviously that first moment came full circle in the last chapters of Empire of Storms when literally everyone shows up. And of course, Aelin's nowhere to be found.
And she's not there.
She's not there. And I'm going to say this, her getting captured and whipped and put in chains and then the face mask and then going off in the box, it was very Chronicles of Narnia right there. In that moment, I was like, Aslan, you have been crucified and taken away by the evil witch.
And the way that Tower of Dawn ends.
Yeah.
With her little POV chapter, I was like, come on, Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah,
yeah, that was rough.
It was a lot.
The whole whipping, Aelin watching, Manon being like, I can't do anything because I have these freaking keys in my pocket.
Yeah. She's like, I'm here for you in spirit.
Lorcan and what's his name? But what are the other? It starts with an F. Fenris?
No, Fenris. There we go. I was like,
Fenris, yeah. Fenris and them being ordered to stand still and not do anything. Oh,
I know. How did you guys feel in these moments?
Well, at 4 a.m. when I was reading that ending, because I may or may not have put off. Well, okay, so here's the thing, y'all. Real talk. I was so scared someone was dying. And in a way, I was correct that I did put off reading the book because I was like, I don't know if I can deal with this emotionally right now. So yeah, so then at 4 a.m. when I'm reading this and I'm just being emotionally devastated. It was rough, man. It was rough.
It just, yeah, I don't know. I feel like in this series, the plots, like the layers here are done well. Obviously you don't know half of it because a lot of it is held secret by Aelin, and it's not revealed until a convenient moment. Like, I can recognize that. It's fine. But there is a level of work that has been done throughout the series that kind of comes to fruition in this book, in Empire of Storms is what I'm talking about. And then obviously in Tower of Dawn, when we realize Maeve's true identity, and kind of like where, you know, these demon kings have come from, what's going on in the House of Commons. I know the entire time I had been reading this series, I was like, what's up with the ghosts? Why do we care about ghosts? Why do they keep coming apart? You know, Elena, Brannon, Gavin, who are these people? Why do we care? And I think in this one, it became very clear as to why we have ghosts randomly appearing and giving these cryptic messages. Yeah. Where was I going with that? No idea. It just makes it emotional. That's
well, and with Empire of Storm, I'll be real, like, while I was reading it, I was like, man, we're not getting any Aelin in this book. Like, when you're like reading it, I think we got maybe a couple POVs from her. But it was mostly from like everyone else. And I was like, wow, we're getting none of her. I feel like I care about everyone else so much more than Aelin, who's supposed to be the main character. And then when it's revealed, like at the end, everything that she'd been doing for the time of the book, that was wild. Like when you find out like the thing of her knowing that they're mates, that moment, like I knew it was going to happen, but rough. And then there's like a moment where when everyone like comes in after she gets captured, all the other ships and everyone else shows up, and Aelin is like, I yelled at her and was like, you aren't doing enough, you aren't doing anything, and she's been doing all this the whole time. That was rough.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of Sarah J. Maas's probably like her strongest points of her writing style is her POVs, because she uses them in a way where like the reason why you don't get a lot of Aelin is because she doesn't want you to know what Aelin's doing this entire book. You know what I mean? So she uses that, and I think it's like a very smart reader. Like you're a very smart reader to have noticed that and to have been like, oh my God, we're not getting a lot of Aelin. And it's because if you got a lot of Aelin, you would see like all of the little things. Like she would have to face all these little things that like she has been doing the whole time. But like Sarah J. Maas wants that to be a reveal later on. You know what I mean? This cuckoo bananas up in here. Okay. Bananas up in here. But yeah. We've all had those moments where we realize we were powerfully wrong, and I hurt for him. Yeah, Adian, bless his heart. He's very headstrong and straightforward. I enjoyed the parts with his dad where he had to confront him. Did I think, you know, he might have been a little hardcore, you know, did your dad even know you were alive? You know? But it's his life and his relationship, so obviously he's got to deal with it himself. But that whole part was so crazy, insane. And I remember when I was reading it, I was like, if there's some loophole where Maeve gets control over Adian because of his dad, it's over for me. But obviously that doesn't happen.
Now I'm curious about all of that generally, right? This is where I don't know that it's touched upon because we don't actually know that she's a Vogue queen until Tower of Dawn, so we wouldn't know in Empire of Storms. But it wouldn't actually really be possible, right? Because she's not Fae, and what they're like the rituals that they're doing are Fae rituals. And if she's not Fae, then like it wouldn't pass the same way. So now I'm curious though, like how she has such a strong tie over them generally. So I feel like it has to do with something like similar to what we were saying with the king and why do I always forget that little rat's name?
Is it Parrington?
Parrington?
Yes. Yeah.
That little rat's name. Erewhon, aka Parrington.
Mhm.
I think the only loophole with that is just that so let's like go back. You guys have read it obviously, but in Tower of Dawn, we realized that Maeve came from the same places as the rest of the demon Valg, right? And she even had a relationship with one of them, one of the kings, because she's crazy. She's married to him. Weird. So we find that out, and then she gets stuck essentially in this world, and she has to like become a fae. And I know that she takes on like a fae body. So like I think the only loophole there is just that she's in the fae body, but that still doesn't make sense as to the magic system and that kind of a thing. And it is different, but also like she ends up letting some of the guys go from her bond.
Well, and that's why I think that the bond isn't real. Like it's a manipulation thing.
Instead of like a real thing.
Because what isn't there something about like mind control with the Vogue just generally?
Yeah, I mean, she's basically brainwashed everyone into believing that she is
The third sister.
the third
Yeah.
sister. And now it's just been so long that everyone just believes that that's who she is. But she definitely has, she has some sort of like mind control ability and like able to mess with people's memories and mess with people's heads.
Well, and it makes me especially curious in regards to like all of the healers that she has surrounded herself by, because those Fae healers, which we get a glimpse that Irene is probably a descendant of the Fae healers. Like, it's interesting. Is it a manipulation thing, why they surround her? Or is it like a give and a take type of thing where she protects them, they protect her? I'm very curious about that.
And I hope we get answers.
You know, we do.
Cannot confirm or deny, but I sure hope we do. Yeah. I don't know. Interesting questions. Maybe you don't need magic on both sides for the blood oath, just on one for it to work. Aelin is demi-fae after all, and Rowan swears to her. Well, she does. I was going to say this earlier. She does mention how her bond is different than Maeve's.
Mm-hmm.
And they end up saying like, oh, well, it's because like you and Rowan made your bond through love, and it wasn't like under manipulation. And so like, I think in some ways, like what you're saying and also what they're saying is true. Like it is different. It's not the same. And it is because it's a manipulation, and it's because it's not like an actual true blood oath.
Yeah, because Maeve has like total control. Like she says, do not move, do not like even turn your head.
So
maybe they don't move.
And maybe they just don't understand
exactly
that the difference actually isn't because of how the bond is made. It's because of who she is.
Yes, exactly. Because obviously none of them know about it yet. You know what I mean? Because we haven't had everybody come together. So it is super specific, and there's no wiggle room, and that's because she's crazy. She's a super freak. She's super freaking. Anyway, okay, so I want to talk about this. I want to talk about the witches. I'm here. I'm ready to party. So when we first kind of see the witches, they're ransacking the city. Okay, they're ransacking Dorian's home. And Manon goes in and basically like backs up. Well, I guess she doesn't back up, but like she's supposed to essentially get Dorian and bring him back. But Iskra, the Yellow Legs heir, is just in there messing stuff up. And then there's an altercation. Manon ends up killing some witches. And so they end up going back to home base, and she ends up going on trial for killing witches, being a witch killer.
Yeah.
this whole entire part, this like blood for blood, I think the witches are so fun to me because it goes back to like what I really love about fantasy and like magic and stuff, and how there's like rules and like there are things that they have to follow, and like they take their oaths so seriously, and like all of their like magic is like deep within like their loyalty to each other, even though like they're bloodthirsty and like a little like psychotic and crazy. But in this moment, obviously Manon is not trying to let them know that Dorian has escaped because she let him go, like all that kind of a thing. So her grandmother decides to get rid of her second, Asterin. And we knew from previous books that like the grandmother has always been shady to Asterin, like more than shady. She's been abusive. She's been horrible. Like, I can't believe that's her granddaughter too, that she's treated like that, which is really crazy. But for some reason, she thinks Asterin is weak, you know, for like loving somebody and trying to have a child with them and that kind of a thing. So anyway, my whole point of that is that moment where Manon decides this isn't right, and I'm gonna save my cousin, and I'm gonna save my 13, and I'm gonna kill my granny.
Yeah, she does.
I was hollering at this book, y'all. Like, I was like, yes!
I was like, honestly, it is about time. I was waiting for that moment. Feel like it should have come sooner, but I'm glad that it finally came for her, where she's like, no, enough is enough.
Yes, it's a full circle moment to what we had been talking about in the last live, which was that she was realizing things. She was like, this isn't right. I might be normal. I might be a human. And then it comes out about her lineage, about how not only was that like Kraken witch that she killed, not only was she a Kraken, that was her half sister. Manon is actually part Kraken. The grandma killed not only the mom, but the freaking dad, the prince.
Part Kraken, she is the Kraken queen.
Yeah. And the guy came looking for her, and the granny killed him. Yeah.
Also, the grandma in that moment says to her, like, I made you this way.
Yeah.
Manon has that moment where she's like, oh my God, you really are a monster.
Yeah.
And I'm not a monster, and I'm not going to be a monster. And I was like,
yes, girl. Her character development is one of my favorite character developments in like any fantasy series I think I've ever read.
She remains to be my favorite character. I love Aelin and stuff, like I really do. But Manon, she remains to be my...
She definitely has the biggest shift out of all of them.
But she's also like the most interesting. I feel like Aelin, I love Aelin because she's a badass and she really is just down for her people, and she just wants to win this for everyone else. It's not even for her. And I think that's what I just love about Aelin in general, is like nothing that she does is necessarily for her. Because I think you see at the end of Empire of Storms that she's like for sure in her mind dead. Like this whole time she's just been dead in her mind. So like love her, but Manon is one of those characters that's just like extremely interesting. Every single thing that you learn about her, every move that she makes, every decision that she makes is extremely interesting and oftentimes unpredictable. And I kind of just love it.
Yeah. She's not the sacrificial lamb type of character like Aelin. Like Aelin is her themes are like sacrifice, loyalty, destiny, power. Like those are her like words, you know what I mean? Whereas Manon is power, and she is loyalty, she is sacrifice, she is destiny, but it's in a whole completely different way. And I think their entire kind of like storyline of how they're two sides of this coin, like she's iron and she's fire, like they have to use each other to kind of find out how to get rid of this darkness in the world. Like it's just so interesting to me, I guess, because in the grand scheme of things, like Manon is a witch, She has iron teeth. She has iron nails. She's got a wyvern. But, like, she doesn't have, like, magical fire powers, you know, like, in the grand scheme of things. Like, if anything, I mean, she's, like, the most human out of all of them, you know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. It's just, like, very interesting how she decides to, like, move forward, especially in the end of Empire of Storms when she's got the word keys in her pocket, right? And Elid's like, do something, like, save her, like, da 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 da. And Manon's like, my forte is knowing when to strike. And I'm going to save you, Elid, because you are brethren, you are my sister. But there's not much I can do for Aelin. She's going to be okay. You know, she's going to get hurt. But I got other priorities, and that is my MO, you know.
Yeah. Well, Manon is very so Aelin is the I will die for you type, and Manon is the I will kill for you type.
Yes. That's my type. That's my
Yeah, I like, in the grand scheme of things, I don't want to die for you. I will.
I love how Manon just in Queen of Shadows was like, she just with a lead, she's like, okay, you're part of my crew now. It was just like this small thing where she was like, leave this girl alone type of thing. And now in Empire of Storm, she's like, this is my kin. And if you touch her, you're dead.
Yeah.
It's just so funny how it went from this casual thing where she was like, whatever, I'll protect you, to like, touch her and you die.
Yeah. It's true. And Aelin, I think, has like a nice character arc as well. Obviously, it's not as like intense as the main characters of the books, but she is like a really nice like side character, like minor character, whatever you want to call her, I think. And just going from like being this kind of like no name person in the last book that you're like, who is cleaning the scullery maid? What is she doing? She's slinking around, being a little weird, like what's going on? And then like in this book, she ends up obviously taking back power. She freaking falls in love with Lorcan, arguably the like scariest one, you know, like what is he doing? But somehow they found love. Wonderful. And then to having her be like, I hope that you suffer for the rest of your days and you're never happy because you betrayed us, Judas. You.
He really did.
Just trying to protect her, but he didn't.
He's really stupid. He's dumb.
He's an
idiot.
Stupid man.
He's a stupid idiot.
Something that crosses my mind a lot that I think Sarah does really well, and maybe it's not, I don't know, whatever. But I think it's really fun that like you have characters like Elid and Aelin and Irene, right? Who, I mean, Aedian's a little bit different in this scenario because he's her cousin, so he had more motive to get back to her. But like Irene and Elid they're all coming to this one character because she touched their life in some sort of way. Irene's a little bit smaller than Elid's because Aelin actually was part of the court and etc. But like, I think it's really fun and really interesting that there are all of these like smaller characters that are now becoming bigger parts of the story that have been so impacted by Aelin for one reason or another, that are all desperately trying to get back to her, even though like Irene doesn't really know who she is. She's like, but I did all of these things in my life because of this person. You know what I mean? I think it's really interesting, and I'm very curious, especially when finishing Tower of Dawn, and like how Chaol is like, I can't wait for you to meet this person type of thing.
Don't throw that scrap of paper away yet.
Yeah.
I loved that moment. I loved the moment where he sees the handwriting, and I was waiting for that to happen. But like, he sees the handwriting and he's like, you know, in a way, Aelin gave me this person.
That gave me chills. That made me really, really like Chaol a lot. Like his whole story was great, and I was so glad that we got that story, because I especially think Sarah J. Maas's MO is to make you hate certain characters within her plots. And
Weird,
I
yeah.
felt like in this one, she did it at first, and then she was like, let me pump the brakes.
Yeah, he's not a bad guy.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
I don't know. I liked that ending because it was especially a solidifying moment in that he had really healed and moved on from whatever he was dealing with regarding Aelin and like Faye and him, being part of this really corrupt court that he feels like he was upholding like horrible things and he didn't realize it type of thing. Now it's Dorian's turn.
Yeah.
Well,
we'll
and
get to it.
yeah. And also with Kale, I'll always I just love him. Because this boy, he just wants to be loved so desperately.
He wanted a wife so bad. Y'all remember that quote?
Well, I mean, like literally, he was like, okay, so I'm gonna marry Aelin.
You're
For, like,
still
day one.
embarrassing, Kale. You are still embarrassing. Oh my god.
But like obviously he didn't get that from his like family, and he so much just wanted to be loved. And then he found that love with Dorian. Like Dorian, when he says I love you to Kale, like we come back to that moment in Tower of Dawn. And then
their relationship, like
I love them so much.
Yeah, I love them. And it's the fact that they still think about each other, like to this day. They haven't been together and they're still thinking. He's like, I wish Dorian was here. And Dorian's like, I wish Kale was here. Like, fucking besties, dude. I'm sorry, but
they
like,
are brothers.
They're brothers.
Yeah.
Wow. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but yeah, continue.
No, you're good. I was just, he just wants to be loved.
Yeah,
Poor
like
sweet
he knows
boy.
what that love is supposed to feel like.
Yeah.
He knows.
Yeah. And I love that, like, with Irene, because of course at the beginning of Tower of Dawn, there's like, he's like trying to force things with Nesrin, and like it's just not there. It just isn't happening because Nesrin is so like, she's trying to take care of him, and she's also trying to like feels almost this responsibility towards him. He feels this responsibility towards her. And so then when Irene is like, no, you get yourself around, you push yourself around, you do your exercises, it's like that's what he needed. That was what he was missing, was someone who like challenged him but also helped him.
Yeah, because
No, go on.
I was just gonna say, I think it's interesting their POVs, because Nesrin is coming from a place of like, oh, he's broken. And obviously like our girl Irene, she's like, I mean, you might have some setbacks, but you're not hopeless. You're not like, it's like, I'm not going to push you around when you have these muscles in your arms, sir. So go ahead and get down. Okay.
I also think that Nesrin, her thought process is coming from a place of like being a warrior, type of girl. And also the fact that she wants adventure. Because when what's his name is like, do you want to go with me to this place? Yeah, and she's like, yeah, I do. And I'm not going to even tell him that I'm going. I'm just going to go. We're going to head out.
She has a sense of freedom to her.
Yeah.
That like, I don't think Kale could ever. It's kind of low key what Aelin had. It's like Aelin was free in some ways that like Kale was not okay with. Like he definitely is kind of low key that type of man who's like, okay, but tell me where you are. Text me when you get there,
Yeah. Well, and then she was gone and he was just like, oh, I guess I don't miss her. LOL.
I'm just glad they got smart about it finally. Because like they literally said that in the beginning of that book. They both were like, yeah, we're together. I was confused, y'all. I forgot. Because like I feel like I was like 25% into Tower of Dawn. And then he was like, oh, she hasn't come and stayed in my room since we've been here. And I was like, y'all are still dating? I remember thinking that to myself. I was like, wait a minute. No. Y'all are not dating. On what grounds? On what grounds? Because y'all don't even talk to each other. This is not, well, It does not get my stamp of approval.
Mm-mm.
This was a huge thing for me. Like experiencing Tower of Dawn through like Nesrin's POV. Honestly, Kale too, who had never been there. Like I just think it was so much fun. I love the setting. I said it before. I just thought this whole entire book, this part of the continent, or I guess the southern continent, was just so much fun. And going back to kind of like Nesrin going on this adventure with Sartok and them going to like the Rooks, like nesting grounds, like going to meet the Hearth Mother, and like having this whole other layer to the storyline of like him like learning how to essentially like fight with the Rooks and like having that other magic system. Like that was just so much fun for me personally.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed it. Huh?
I love the Rooks and I love the southern continent, especially because I love a desert fantasy and that's what it was like giving me.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm I'm mad I can't visit it either because I love that type of setting. Like I do like a traditional English setting in a fantasy as well, but like a desert fantasy, there's just something about it that's so magical to me. So I do hope that in Kingdom of Ash we get a little more time there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought it was really, really interesting. I liked it a lot, especially with like the tie-in with the spiders, which we had gotten a little bit of lore from earlier. But, I mean, we can talk about it. The spiders and Falcon. Did you guys like remember who he was when his name came on the page?
Not his name, but once he started to describe who he was, where he was like, oh yeah, I gave away so much of my life, and even though I sold all the things, it was like, oh, I think this is the same guy. Yeah.
It was very, very interesting, especially the part where he's like, my niece is a
As soon as he mentioned his niece, I was like, it's Lysandra. Like, it's gotta be.
When we found out that he was a shapeshifter, I was like, he must be related to Lysandra because she made a comment about how shapeshifters are really rare and that she was like part of one of maybe like 2 or 3 families that still had the ability to shapeshift. So I was like, she must be related to this man, and then he confirmed it.
Yeah. At first I was like, wait, does the timing even match up for him to be like an uncle? Because he's supposed to be like, I think like mid-30s. Like he's not supposed to be super old. It's just like he looks old. But yeah, I mean, he could be like the younger brother, I guess, of like her dad or like whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't know how it all connects, but they're definitely obviously related.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, it's a small world.
Well, yes.
It's a small world out there for sure. Especially when
everyone is in some way related.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The big reveal about Dorian and Aelin being like from the same.
Well, except we knew that, didn't we?
I mean, like, I guess, but like it really got spelled out in this one, I think. Because like, I don't know. Huh?
Spell it out for me again, because I'm drawing a blank.
So like, okay, so there's the whole, this was the ghost tangent I was going on earlier, but she goes back in time with Manon through the mirrors, and they're traveling mirrors, that's what they're called. And they go back in time to see these like memories, which is, you know, giving another plot line from another series, but whatever, we'll go with it. And essentially she's figuring out that like she is going to have to sacrifice herself to get rid of the darkness, right? Because her ancestors did not do it, aka Elena.
Mm-hmm.
She did the wrong thing back in the day. Instead of you know, banishing them back to their place. She just imprisoned Erewhon in the mountain, I think, is what she ended up doing.
I remember that part.
So in the like prophecy, or like what the gods were telling her, is that you have two lines. One that like came from, I think it came from her lover Gavin, I think, and that's like the Haviliard line.
Okay.
And then they've got from Elena, like Aelin and like Adian and like all of them. And so there was like a choice of who it could be, like it could be him or her. But when Nehemia was going and like discovering Elena and talking to her, they both had decided that it would be Aelin because Dorian wasn't ready.
Yeah. So the only thing that confused me about that part, thanks for reminding me about that, because I remembered it, but I was like, I think in my brain, I was like, no, they're not related, right? But does that mean then that Dorian is demi-fae as well?
This is where it gets confusing, because I'm like, was Gavin?
No, because I think the demi-fae comes from her mom's side.
Right.
Yeah.
I know that Gavin is human.
Yeah.
But I didn't know, is it like, I don't know. I was confused about who did he have a baby with to like have that line.
I need to like see a family tree, but I don't want to look anything up because spoilers. So
I'm almost tempted to do it.
Christine, you've already read Kingdom.
Yeah, Google it. You know how it is.
Yeah. Weird. Yeah, I think
you don't remember anything from Kingdom of Ashes?
No.
No, not at all.
I mean, like, I remember the big stuff, okay?
Yeah.
But, like, do I remember the family trees? No.
Here's my thing, though. So both Aelin and Dorian could sacrifice themselves to get rid of the word keys.
Are you?
Oh, wait, sorry. Aelin gets it directly from her mom. No relationship
Yeah.
to Dorian's line. Okay.
There you go.
Thank you.
Okay, wait, what was the question?
Just that Aelin, no one's safe.
So the big picture that we get from this book is that Aelin has to sacrifice herself, and that's why she's
Aelin
like
has to sacrifice herself, but Dorian could also sacrifice himself.
I have a prediction.
No one's safe, and I'm scared.
I have a prediction.
That's my thought. Go for it, Steph.
No, I was gonna say I feel like you're right that no one's safe, but I feel like if out of the two of them, it's Dorian who's gone.
Yeah, that's what I'm scared about.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little nervous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm just scared. But also knowing SJ, I see Christine just going. But like, I mean, so we get Kale brought back to life, and I'm not gonna say anything about other books in the SJM universe, but like, I just don't believe in anyone dying, and I'm just gonna leave it at that.
I don't think Sarah believes in anyone dying either.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna leave it at that. Christine,
I mean, based off of my experience with her before, in previous series, she likes to kill off like random side characters.
Yeah.
So yeah. I'm sure it'll be like, this one would be probably more devastating because I feel like there isn't a random side character.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like
we had someone who took one for the team and Googled the family tree. Yeah, this was what I was thinking. The relation to Dorian is on the dad's side, her dad's side. And the Ash River line has the Fae.
So they're like, what, cousins thrice removed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're kissing cousins. It's not weird.
I don't think it's any weirder than like her being with Rowan,
Rowan.
and they are related for sure by blood. Like
they're like first cousins, aren't they?
yeah, which I
And-
think she's only related to Dorian by marriage because it says connected to the Havilier line by marriage.
Well, and then there's the whole thing of like at the end when Aelin's like plan is revealed, and I love that all the girls are in on the plan.
Oh
And
yeah,
none of the guys know.
because they can't keep a secret.
Yeah, because
Come on now.
they're all
They're all idiots.
males who are overly protective or whatever. But when Aelin is like, so like, when were you gonna reveal that like I was supposed to have a child with my cousin who isn't actually my cousin?
That part was funny.
I was like, can we not with the cousin thing? Can we?
I know.
Please.
But
move
like
past
it's so
that.
genius though. Like that was so genius. She's like, I'm gonna die, but Lysandra's gonna be me forever.
Yeah.
What? Also sad.
Yeah. I do want to just be like, okay, but what was your plan with that, Aelin? Were you going to tell Rowan beforehand? Like, you know, he wouldn't let you sacrifice yourself. So, like, were you just going to let him believe that Lysandra was you? Like, come on.
She was not gonna tell him, and she didn't. Not even
Also,
in
the whole
end.
thing of like Maeve trying to get Aelin and Rowan to cross paths before when she's like 12. And I'm like,
Maeve,
we have to keep on reminding
like, I
ourselves
get
of
it.
that.
She was trying to get it so that she would have her, you know, under her control.
Mhm.
But thank God that didn't happen because that was crazy. That was crazy.
500-year-old and
Yeah, it's giving
he
Jacob,
would have
you
for
know?
sure.
Oh, yeah. I think just based off scent alone, he would have been like, no.
Yeah.
Who are you? No. You smell like a wet cat. No.
Yeah.
Like,
Where's
it's
my
not me.
life?
It's not me, love. Yeah.
It ain't me.
It ain't me. It's not me. There was something I was gonna say, but I forgot what it was.
Can I say one of my favorite parts of Empire of Storm was just like the entirety of what's it called, Pirates Bay or whatever.
Skulls Bay. I literally in my little notes
like,
I put Skulls
From
Bay.
the beginning of Skulls Bay, like first of all, the first time that we see like Lysandra impersonating Aelin and like the whole thing where they like walk in and Aelin's there and what's his name is like, and there's Selena because that's Selena. That is not, you know, Aelin. She's like in full Selena mode and then flirting with Rowan. I was like, okay, I get it. And then just like them being there. I like there were so many great moments of like domesticity, where they're like the night before, Adian's gonna go talk to his dad, and they're all like sleeping in close quarters. And Dorian is like, "What's going on? You're doing okay? I'm rolling over and going back to sleep." And Lysandra going into Rowan and Aelin's room to like steal clothes. That whole thing, just like so many good little in between moments that I just loved in Skulls Bay.
Well, I think that's why Sarah J. Maas is so like, I don't want to say unmatched because I think that there are people who have great character dynamics and great characters, but I do feel like every time I read a series by her, I'm always like die hard for the characters. And I think because she does add a lot of those small, little, tiny moments that you don't realize matter to you so much. And then when you're reflecting on it, you're like, this is just so real. This is so relatable. This reminds, even though they're demi-fae and they're fighting a war, it's like, yeah, I would spend the night with my friends and like go in there and steal clothes, or we would like make fun of our friends for like making out in the corner type of thing. And that's what they do. And so I feel like it's just easy to fall in love with all of them because they like love each other so much, and it feels so relatable and real.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be really fun to get into ACOTAR, because like as I was reading this, I literally said to myself, like, she literally was so tired of writing this series. Like, she put so much into these last 3 books that, like, ACOTAR, it makes sense why she wrote ACOTAR the way she wrote it. And like, we can circle back to that once we get to it and go through those books. But I feel like with ACOTAR, it just is not as heavy as this series. Like, this series is like, there are so many like little moving parts and like things that are going on with the plot, and like the characters go through so much. And not to say that in ACOTAR they don't go through a lot, they do, but in this one it's like truly, I think, like an epic fantasy where in the end, like, you don't know what's going to happen. Like, you guys are both kind of surmising of what's going to happen to these characters, and you know, who's gonna not make it, who's gonna sacrifice, you know. It makes sense. It makes sense because the themes in all of these books have been like sacrifice, loyalty, like, I'm gonna do all of these things, like, I'm gonna do whatever I can. And like, we know that Sarah J. Maas does foreshadowing, like, it's not a surprise. So for her to have this character of Aelin be like the one that will sacrifice no matter what, and she's not gonna tell people either. Like, if anything, like, she has shown us in this book that she won't reveal her hand. She won't tell her plans. She is the cat that will go and die under the couch, and you'll never know until it's been dead for like 2 months and you start smelling it or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, sorry, bad analogy, but like, you get what I'm saying. Like, she's not going to tell you.
Sure, yeah, totally.
Love that visual.
I was trying to think of like an awful thing. That's what it was. Sorry.
It was.
But like,
nailed it.
but like, that's how she is. And so like, as I remember going into Kingdom of Ash, I remember thinking like, oh my God, Aelin is not making it out of this series. Like, she is gonna die, you know. And it's, I think what I'm trying to get at is exciting to kind of see you guys go through this next one, because we're gonna be crying.
I was already crying in this one.
I know. I've cried in like almost every book except maybe the first one.
Like,
I mean,
well, that makes sense.
So like the entire like whipping scene, obviously.
Like, literally the end of Empire of Storms, I'm just like, I'm literally whipping my head. I'm like, I don't remember Karn or Cairn, whatever. But like, he obviously is crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was rough. Well, and then like when Kale dies, so let me set the scene for you.
I like it.
let me set the scene. I'm listening to this on audiobook, right? And I'm down in the basement at work packaging these boxes. My boss is over on one computer doing whatever she does. And I get to the part where Kale dies. And I'm just sitting there going, start to have a full meltdown. And then of course it like goes through the thing, and I was like, okay, no, he's good. We're good. It's fine. But like fully like starting to cry at work. Everyone else has read the books. They've read Kingdom of Ash, and they're like, oh, you're not going to be okay for the next one. And I'm like, great. Thanks, everyone. Anyway.
It's going to be an ugly cry. It's going to be an ugly
It's going to be rough.
Yeah.
Well, because it doesn't matter who it is. Like, there is no character that I can see dying where I would be like, that sucks.
Yeah.
I'm
Exactly.
gonna be like,
Yeah.
I mean, so like even with like Irene, who we just met, like I loved Irene.
Me
honestly.
too.
Like I love her. Well,
I
and
do
then
too.
if she dies, Kale dies.
Yeah.
Like there's no getting around that. So that's a fun little plot point. Love that for us. Not gonna be
Catherine's
stressed
not
about
well.
that at all.
a little twofer.
I mean, there's a lot of situations like that. Like if Manon dies, like her wyvern is not gonna be well. You know what I mean?
No,
Like if
no.
Aelin dies, Rowan's not gonna be well. If Rowan dies,
Well,
Aelin's
if
not
Aelin
gonna be
dies,
well.
they're all not going to be well.
Okay, see, this is the thing that gets me with death is that like the death itself always hurts, whatever, but it's the way that people react to those deaths that like freaking devastates me.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me started on Jade Legacy because the reactions, no, that's like it's just.
Like, listen, not to bring up Six of Crows, not to talk about.
I was waiting for it.
Hour 15. That's right.
I held off so long, but yes, I agree.
Yeah, and it's because of these, like the way that the writing goes, like in your head, you think when someone dies, you have all these moments of like you can say your last words or like whatever, but oftentimes like the point of the matter is you don't get to say goodbye. And especially in a book, like, I mean, obviously in real life, yes, but like in a book, like it's horrible because these characters don't get to say, you know, I love you or like whatever, you know, before the person dies. And so it's just so heart-wrenching.
Well, and it's like with this one, like with Tower of Dawn, like if Kale had stayed dead, it was like Dorian. I don't think Dorian would have survived that. Like finding out that his brother died in this faraway land, far from home, without him, he would not have been okay. Even like Aelin, even though her and Kale have had their differences, she would have been devastated. It would have been rough.
No.
It would be real rough. And like
fun.
I feel like always with these like big series with like these characters, and it's like you get to the end and you get to that point where you're like, they were all supposed to make it, and then there's always the one.
Stop.
And then I'm gonna be fine.
They were all supposed to make it, and then you start seeing the TikToks where it's like literally that's the theme of the TikToks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know the one I'm talking about. Anyway, it's fine. What else is in my notes?
That was crazy. It's just the fact that that's a YA series. Anyway.
Yeah.
It really took you out as a young adult.
Ooh, I have a thing. I loved Rowan and Dorian's little bro venture.
Oh yeah, when
at
they're
the very
first going to
beginning,
Skull's
when
Bay.
Rowan like saves Aelin's like, go get Dorian, and Rowan's like, anything for you.
Whatever you say, madam.
And then they go on their little adventure. Also, so while Tandem reading it, you get to the point where they're all at Skull's Bay, and then Kale, sweet angel baby Kale, is like, I need to feed some false information. Where's the one place that she'll never go? I know, Skull's Bay. And I'm like, you dumbass.
That's like so Kale though. You know what I mean? Like that's literally so Kale. I feel like everything he does is like that.
Yeah.
He didn't. That's the thing. Exactly. He's like, if anyone has any common sense, they wouldn't go there. But they do, because they don't have common sense.
But it's not only that. Kale is like, God love him, but boy is he out of the loop. He doesn't know anything ever. He's always like, yeah, I know. I know Aelin really well. And it's like, no, you don't.
And they're like, oh, you mean the Queen of Terracin?
Like, you kissed her.
Kale's there for a good time, you know?
You kissed her.
You wanted to put a ring on it, but like, let's be real, my guy.
What happened to that ring she had? She threw it into the sea like Rose.
It's Irene's now. Sorry, that's
No, didn't she give it to? She traded it for Rowan.
yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot that happened.
Circling back to what you said, Catherine, about the little bro venture with Rowan and Dorian. I loved that too because it was really like he is a single mom who works 2 hot jobs and doesn't know what I love
Sarah, this is hilarious.
I love that whole thing because it turned into Rowan like giving him advice. Like,
yeah.
Listen, it's okay, dude. Like
old man Rowan
he's
giving
like, your feels, my guy.
Yeah.
Like,
I know that Aelin and Rowan like don't have a lot of on-screen like time, you know, like chemistry time, whatever you want to call it. But I do love Rowan, man.
Oh, he has grown on me so much from my first time ever reading Air of Fire when I was like, I don't think I like this man, to now I'm like, yes, Rowan.
Yeah.
I like in the last one in Queen of Shadows, I was like, Rowan's fine. Like, I don't really totally get the appeal. But
Milady.
But he, what was I saying? I got distracted by the
his
lady.
appeal.
This one. I love that he's like, he is kind of the crotchety old man of the group.
Oh, he's 100%.
He's the sarcastic, like, here I am, 900 years with all these 19 to 24-year-olds.
He is
literally married to a 19-year-old.
Literally.
Yeah, he is the billionaire with a 19-year-old wife, you know, and she's running the world.
She sure is.
So I do love that part in Skulls Bay, like going back when she's like, are you taken, baby? And he's like, yep, sadly I am. You know, he's like giving that like very sarcastic, just dry humor, like not smiling, nothing, but like she knows. She's like, our game, okay? Rowan and Aelin, their game is to make the other person laugh. You know what I mean? Like whoever laughs first, they lose. And she's like, I'm not gonna be the one, baby. It's gonna be you. Meanwhile, you know, obviously it wasn't Rowan because he doesn't laugh at anything, but but it's fine.
Well, he just has that like, and I do love the energy of like the exasperated one where he's just like, yeah, it's you.
Yeah.
My favorite thing,
I guess,
really has that attitude of being like exasperated and crotchety, but then he's like going along with everything.
Oh yeah.
It's like I love that attitude when they're like reluctant, but you know they're down for anything.
Yeah. Exasperated but charmed.
He's having a great time. You know, he's having a great time. This is a small piece that we can talk about for 1.5 seconds, but just Evangeline going off with Fleetfoot, and they're with Darrow.
Fleetfoot.
And Lysandra the whole time is
Evangeline.
like looking. She's like looking back on their way, you know, looking.
I actually teared up because I was like, Evangeline had spent so much of her, I guess you could call it adulthood, even though she was a teenager technically and still kind of is a teenager. But she spent so much of her time like protecting this little girl and like being a mother figure to her, even though we can argue that maybe they have a sister relationship. In reality, she's like a mom to her. And I'm like, wow, she's literally like watching a child go away, not knowing if she will ever return to her. And I was like, this is really sad. I didn't know that was going to hit me.
and it did, and it's because like I think going back to kind of what you were saying, like those little moments, like in-betweeners, we can call them, of like Evangeline's personality coming out in the beginning of the novel. Because we only see her for like a couple of chapters. But like even her during, like they're having the meeting, right, with the three lords. And Evangeline is at the window and she's like watching to make sure no one can see them or whatever. But like in her head, she's like practicing all of the things that like Lysandra has told her about, like listening and being really smart. And like you look like a little kid, but like you can learn so much if you just like pay attention and like all this stuff. And I just like those moments, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But we did have to get rid of the kid and the dog for this one because obviously
Yeah.
a lot was going on.
But
Like I
I'm
like
glad
those
that she tied that up.
Huh?
But I'm glad that she tied that up, though.
Oh yeah, they weren't just like there the whole
Yeah.
time.
I
'Cause,
love
like,
that
imagine-
Fleetfoot really just like will make an appearance at the beginning of the book and the end of the book, and then
He's
the
like,
in-between part, they're just like, Fleetfoot, go over here.
Yeah,
I know. She's like, I wrote a dog into the first book, and now I don't know what to do.
Yeah,
exactly.
Figure it out
Exactly.
as I go.
She's
My
like, I don't want to kill the dog,
Yes.
but
And
I can't have the dog
Immediate 0
in the
stars.
book.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's like, and I can't pretend the dog doesn't exist.
So I have to do something with the dog. And
Oh
then
my
in this one, she's like, oh no, I have a child. A child can't be here.
I really can't kill kids, so
I really can't kill the kid.
here we go.
Once again,
Um,
throw myself into a corner.
Yeah. There's a
again,
couple of
I find
those.
myself in an impossible situation.
Thought it was a great time. Now I'm struggling.
Now I'm writing them out of the second chapter. Anyway.
Again.
I wanted to talk about the tour. I don't know if I'm saying this right, so bear with me, okay? But this is in Tower of Dawn. The tour Chesme?
Chesney.
C-E-S. Chesme? There we go. Chesme. Ooh la la. Anyway. But the tour Chesme, I loved this part, and I also love the fact that they have a 1,500-year-old library underneath, just like full of tomes and things that like some people don't even understand the languages, you know what I mean? But then there's also this like one librarian, what's her name? Norse or Norse?
Mhm.
It's me.
Norse.
Actually.
Yeah, literally, just imagine Steph, down there. And they've brought her in from like God only knows where. It's like some far off place. She speaks 50 different languages, most of them dead. And she doesn't really like Irene, which I think is funny because Irene's like, yeah, we're not really friends.
Mhm.
But like she definitely gets me the books I need because like, she's top dog, whatever. But I feel like this is always a theme. I don't know if this is in Crescent City, but like Sarah J. Maas always loves to write in like libraries and like just like these huge places where people can go and like get this information. And in the library, that's where they find the fact that there are like the 3 Vowed Kings. Maeve is like, part of this troop. Like all these things have been uncovered, whatever. This is just something interesting that I wanted to point out. There's no point in pointing this out other than
I think this is a good thing to point out, especially when we proceed into other series by Sarah J. Maas. As someone who has now dabbled in all the series, books are very important and libraries are very important. And I think it is important to pay attention to books and things that are mentioned.
I cannot wait until we get to Crescent City, y'all. I'm going to be spouting
I'm
out
so excited to get to Crescent City.
Because y'all know me. I'm gonna be up in here with my little tabs. I'm going to be like, okay, so they said this on page 48. Tell me what that means, y'all. Tell me what that means.
Yeah.
Crescent City a little held back.
Still remains my favorite. So.
Especially when we read the second one, which, no, I haven't read it, but I have been spoiled for the end. Unfortunately for me.
Same.
Tell us.
This is like the second time somebody has spoiled something for me where like they responded to my story where I literally just said I was excited about something, and then like Saga, someone responded to me about a huge spoiler. Huge. So I won't even like move on with the series now. And then Crescent City, I got spoiled like
Can I just say, back in my day when I was like on tumblr.com.
Oh my goodness.
No,
The
because
Tumblr
I was
daddy.
on Tumblr like all through high school, through most of college. And we were all so careful about tagging spoilers, making sure like things had big spoiler warnings. TikTok and Twitter now, people do not care about tagging spoilers. Like we have a thing here. Like we're talking spoilers. This is an entirely spoilery live show. But like it is, people will just say the craziest things day that the book comes out. Because I had something spoiled for me for Iron Flame literally the day it came out.
same.
Not even a week later, the day it came out.
Yeah.
And I think as a culture, we need to be better. As a book culture, we need to be better about tagging spoilers and things. Because some of us have jobs.
Yeah, also I just
Well said.
And that's the end of my rant, but
Wasn't even a rant.
Sarah, no, Christine has not read any of the Crescent Cities.
Oh yeah, sorry. I was not looking at comments.
But also the library is cool aspect as well because like the murder like Irene sees the dead body and then she realizes somebody is like after her.
Ooh,
Yeah, which I thought was like a really great start. Yeah, because I thought that, yeah. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say I would love to see Sarah J. Maas write a little like thriller. Like I feel like it would be so good if she wrote a little thriller.
That was like a fun little part because I was like, oh my god, we're gonna have a mystery in this one.
Yeah. Well, and I remember the library that she has in the ACOTAR series. There's like not like a similar scene, but like there are scenes in the library, and I just really enjoy those scenes, just as like a setting.
Well, also the libraries are interesting to me because in both scenarios, they're almost like what would you call it? Like a safe space for
haven.
Like, yeah, like, and specifically for women.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think that is such an interesting comment that I feel like it's intentional. Because especially the one in ACOTAR, which we'll talk about when that happens, but even this one, like, is most of the healers are women in the Toro Chestnut, and like they have their own personal like language with the bells, where it's like we know exactly what to do when that bell goes off, like we know how to come together and like be safe. And I think that's a really interesting aspect that like the libraries are those safe havens, and that it's primarily for women.
Yeah, I do love it, but I also do love the fact that like in those libraries there are dark spots.
Yeah,
like you see that like she's in like the deepest like parts trying to work through these scrolls, and she kind of notices all of a sudden like, whoa, no one's around, you know what I mean, like wait a minute. And then it's like kind of dark, and then she's like, ooh, somebody's watching me.
She's like, I'm uneasy.
Yeah, I don't like it. And then she's running through and she's like, oh, hey, we're going to go get some tea from Cook, aren't we? And like, it's like, if you change the POV, no one's there. Like, it's just like, it was a kind of a comedy, but not really when I was reading it. So I was just like, oh, Lord, she is really faking it right now. She is trying to get her butt going. Because you know when she saw that body and the body was just like, you know, she was like, oh, good God, there's no life left in her. Woo!
What was it like?
Like it was just so, yeah.
Speaking of bodies and death,
yeah.
Okay.
I feel like we didn't talk about end of Tower of Dawn. Like we touched on Kale's death, but the one princess, being the one possessed.
Yeah, she be murdering people.
Duva.
She was a murderer.
That was
That
crazy.
was definitely that. I think that definitely was probably the one. Like we were all like, oh, we wouldn't be sad if somebody died, but like I really didn't know anything about her the whole time, and I think Sarah J. Maas did do that. You know, that's like her signature almost. But
Well, yeah, I mean, that was it was so similar to what happened with the king, where
yeah,
we
like
suddenly get this revelation that like he wasn't actually himself the whole time, which I still feel like, not to harp on it, I still feel weird about it because I'm like, I didn't feel anything towards that. Like, yes, you feel bad for Dorian because it's like, oh, you had your father stripped away from you, but you know what? Like, same, Dorian, get over it. I'm just kidding.
you think you're something, Dorian? You're not.
You're not the only one with daddy issues.
Yeah, exactly.
You're special, Dorian.
Yeah. Oh, and then you find out that like the dad was trying to like save magic by like killing the magical people, and you're like, okay, make it make sense, dude.
I got rid of magic.
Yeah, and you're like,
it was for you.
You're still.
I did everything for my boy.
My boy.
He's like, well, kill him anyway.
Yeah. Off with their heads. Yeah,
but like
convenient.
Irene having to make that choice of, do I kill? Like, I took this oath to never kill anyone, and now do I kill this girl who's also pregnant?
Oh my god, I know. I didn't even like register it until she was like, yes, there's still a heartbeat. And I was like, oh
yeah.
And then and it was like, is that baby like legitimate, or is this a vow baby?
I know.
I always like
Sounds like it was.
I think so.
No, yeah, I think so, because the prince was from
Yeah, and they were she was pregnant before they got married.
Yes. She was like he was from like a far off kingdom. And I love that description. I love when Sarah J. Maas does that, because you're like, where did he come from? Where on the map is
from?
This
far away.
Where did he come from? Cotton Eye Joe.
And then I'm like, okay, swerve, you know, like who knows who this random person is, but she's leaving the gateway open for like, you know, in 5 books to be like, oh, and remember that random prince that one time that was from a far off land? It was actually the land of Gashalipula, you know? That's a whole other series. I don't know. Anyway.
She did. Oh, sorry. Speaking of, did y'all see she announced a bunch of books coming out? Sarah J. Maas.
I feel like I saw it, but I'm so nervous about spoilers that
I'm not gonna look at that, because literally, so I finished this today at work, and my coworkers saw whatever she posted, and I was like, wait, what? And they're like, we can't say anything because spoilers.
I didn't actually read what everything said. I just saw somebody post in their stories like, we're getting more series, and I was like, cool, I'm gonna just get past this.
Yeah,
that's exciting.
Great. So we'll just continue this Mass-A-Long until the day we die. Great. Amazing.
Yeah.
Like that cat under the couch.
Awesome. Yeah.
Like,
yeah, the cat. I am the cat.
One day we will just slink away and die.
And then our cameras will just be on empty rooms, and they'll be like, what happened?
The internet is forever. No, but like that's kind of low key why I like wanted to start reading Crescent City, is because of something I saw her say about the series. So it's like I don't want to. I'm gonna be incognito. Like, please let me catch up, and then we can all talk about it or whatever. But yeah, no, I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. I'm having like tunnel vision. I'm like not looking at any time now, because before I could kind of look at like memes and things of like Throne of Glass before I like thought I'd ever read this series and be like, I don't know who any of these people are, so it doesn't matter. But now I'm just like, I cannot look at fan art. I can't look at anything because
it'll be spoiled. Not until
it'll
we get
be
through
spoiled.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna look at anything till I finish Crescent City too. and that's why I'm powering through them.
It's probably safe. Honestly, I've really protected myself from Crescent City. I'm proud of that. So
Good.
I really honestly, I say this every time, but I honest to God don't know what that series is about other than
And I'm
it's
so
death.
excited for that for you.
Yeah. I am too,
Don't
because
look
one of my
into it
favorite
at all.
things in fantasy series is guessing what's gonna happen. I love
Yeah.
doing that because if I'm
Yeah.
right, then I have like a whole high about it at the end. I'm like, I was right. I'm a writer. Like, crazy. Why are you a psycho? Like,
No, because I do that. I try not to look at descriptions of fantasy series, especially.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't
the
read
description will tell you
blurbs.
everything. Have you ever seen a trailer on Amazon? Okay, it tells you the entire movie plot.
No,
You can't watch them.
I was like, literally blurbs nowadays. Back in my day,
oh shit, that's another one.
blurbs just they literally give you things that happen like halfway through the book, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
I agree.
what?
Because they're trying to like hook you to be like, ooh,
Yeah.
isn't this a fun thing that you can experience? And it's like,
Yeah.
leave that to the booktubers.
No,
to
I
tell
agree.
me. Thank you.
Don't read the Crescent City summary.
I
Don't read it
didn't.
at all. Because
See,
I
I-
didn't, and I was taken by surprise by something.
Same.
And then
I was really taken by surprise by it, and then somebody was like, "That was in the synopsis."
I literally had the same exact experience.
Are we the same person?
Are we?
You guys just like morph into one screen. It's just me and you.
We were the same the whole time.
Ah, that's the biggest plot point.
But yeah, don't read the summary.
I love going into like fantasy series thinking I have an idea of what it is just based off like maybe somebody's review or whatever, and then I go into it and I'm like, oh, surprise, I didn't know what the fuck to expect of it.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah. I love like the most bare bones description, and like not to bring up Shadow and Bone,
I
but
knew it.
1 hour,
no.
one.
It was only 30 minutes later. Not
No,
even my
but one of
age.
my favorite things in that one is and we've gotten totally off the rails now, but like Leigh Bardugo, her whole like pitch of Shadow and Bone is, what if darkness was a place?
Mm-hmm. I remember
that's
watching like interviews with her about that.
And I'm like, that is so intriguing. Don't tell me anything else. That's all I need to know.
Yes,
And
you
that's
know
what I
love
feel
a
like
villain.
all books should have, is just that one little tagline, and I don't need to know anything else.
Okay, so if this book had a tagline, both of these books, what would it be?
If sadness were your friend.
I feel like this one has something to do with like inner demons, because I feel like that's like the main theme of this one. I feel like it's hard to, I feel like you need to come up with a tagline for the series over just like the book itself, you know?
The sacrificial lamb.
Honestly, two women become one.
I mean, that's real, yeah.
No, because then I want it to be more gay.
I know she keeps hinting, but there's never any.
Never any.
They're not alive. Like Orlon is dead. So, what the heck?
No.
She did have like she had a moment with Aelin where she was like,
Aelin said he likes both.
He's a bisexual.
Actually, we forgot about the sapphic relationship in Tower of Dawn too. Hassan.
There is, yeah.
Hassan.
But it's always like side characters. It's never like
Yeah.
actually characters in the forefront, you know.
It's true. Oh, Aelin, sweet baby boy.
I love Aelin so much.
I know. Me too.
I still am team Aelin and Kale being boyfriends.
I mean, now that he's married.
Thruple?
Mm-hmm.
Why like an open poly knot?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Open, like an open polyknot type deal would be
We
fun.
should
that
just,
would be
yeah, we jump over everything else and just go straight to polyamory.
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, at that point,
Kale just wants to be loved.
he really does.
Not time to.
I wrote in my 3 sentence notes. Kale really is just out here falling for any girl that pays him any attention.
He really is.
In parentheses,
Okay.
same.
Wait, yeah. The fact that he literally picks a fight with Irene and he's like, I'm so mad at you, like you're the worst human being, whatever. And as he's doing this, he's walking like a little baby boy towards her. He's a little baby bird. And she's like, fly, bitch, fly.
Yeah,
Be as mad as you want.
She's like, you're yelling at me,
But here I go.
you're
Mhm.
That's right. But you're walking because of me.
surprise, surprise.
Honestly, he should put a ring on it because she did a lot for him.
She
Always the
did.
women.
It's always the women.
They're carrying the book.
Like
Mhm.
honestly carrying him for real, you know. So there you go. I'm trying to think if there's anything else we haven't hit on as far as plot.
I will say they go to the salt marshes.
Oh, yeah.
You both have read Lord of the Rings, right? Or at least
Yes.
watched the movies.
Mhm.
It totally was like the marshes in Return of the King.
Yeah.
100%.
The dead marshes.
Yes.
They're like, there's dead people in the water. And I'm like,
Mhm.
Tolkien?
Yeah. I think about that all the time, about how Sarah J. Maas pulls from like so much stuff and how it reminds me of stuff. Like I think even like the bad guy in this one, like Erewhon, reminds me of Lord of the Rings.
Mm.
Like the evil kind of like soldiers for Erewhon that have like the pointed black hands. Like it reminds me of the Lord of the Rings.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? The main guy. The
Yeah,
main
That's
guy.
cool, yeah.
Some of her stuff also
Very
reminds me of like George R.R. Martin.
Yep.
Oh, for sure.
The dragons especially, like
Mhm.
oh boy. But yeah,
The
that whole part.
incest. Sorry.
That was a nice part.
Mhm.
The incest. Yeah.
Mhm.
The incest.
The twins,
Mhm.
you know. Whatever. But also, I guess I'll permit it. Me as the end all be all. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to my notes here. I was telling them earlier that I tried to make a discussion outline. It's just a bunch of gibberish.
I love that you think that we're going to stick to discussion points and not just vibe the entire time.
We literally
Yes.
started off so
Vibe.
chaotically. We started off so chaotically and have not come down from that.
No.
I'm still reeling about Manon and Dorian just being so kinky.
So kinky.
I know, and she literally she gets mad too. She's like, I can't believe I let him be on top. What the heck? I was like, well, Manon, I mean, Manon,
Maybe next time.
keep it together. I was waiting for them to hook up again. I was like, all right, well, let's keep a good thing going.
Also,
You know what I'm saying?
Dorian was Mr. Suave.
Oh,
Yeah.
suave since book 1. It's just Aelin
Right,
was a little more suave than him.
I guess, but I mean, I think they just like weren't. It's so funny when we joke about like them even being a thing in the first one. I mean, they weren't really a thing. They like had a flirtation, whatever. But it's like, to me, it just felt so, this is a shiny new thing. And we're kind of like, we're vibing as friends so we could see where it goes, but it's never really anything that serious. So like anytime I think about that, I'm like, they were never anything. They always were kind of just friends who like played with the idea of being together. But then when he is with Manon, I'm like, oh,
Well, even pre Aelin, he used to be a player.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then he had trauma.
He was trying to marry. He was trying to marry the assassin. Okay.
Yeah.
Him and Kale.
Mm-hmm.
Awkward.
And then he got over it
But-
real quick after he saw his
Yeah.
girl, his one true love, okay? Manon.
Sorsha.
Who?
I forgot about Sorsha. Respect on her name. Respect on her name. I forgot about her. I'm so sorry. That was
I try
really
to forget
rude.
about her. What was the
That was
point
a
of
random
her?
plot line. Take a shot every time Sarah J. Maas puts a random plot line in there. Okay.
It
There
was
we go.
so random.
Yeah, that was random. I forgot. I forgot. all about
Sometimes you do make out with your friends a little.
it. I mean, yeah.
It
It is what it
happens.
is. Yeah.
You
It
gotta
is what it is.
see.
You know Dorian and Kale have made out at least once.
Oh my
Like,
god, yes.
There had to have been just
Mhm.
at least one drunken night, you know.
I feel
yeah.
like the vibe I get is that just even though it's not canon, they're all bisexual.
Oh, for sure.
Oh,
You cannot tell me that Lysandra and Aelin would not have hooked up at some
Come
point.
on. They had to have.
Like,
They just have a good rapport.
they do.
They're
yeah.
They're a found family, an incestual found family. It's just not on page, okay?
Hmm.
And that's okay. I'm all
And
right
that's
with
why Kale and Adian are boyfriends.
that. Well, and especially since Adian like comes out and says he likes men. So it's
Yeah.
like then you go back to those scenes and you're like, ah,
I'm just saying there were vibes there.
if only Kale wasn't a stick in the mud. They could have had a beautiful thing.
They could have
But
had
whatever,
a
I
thing.
support him. I support him with his wife, his now wife.
my wife.
My wife?
My wife.
Yeah,
I love
ACOTAR,
throwing that around.
ACOTAR really gives straight, you know.
Yeah.
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 And I know there's like a whole thing, but it's
Yeah.
We can talk about it.
We'll talk about that.
We'll get to it, 'cause we already.
But yeah, I would say I forgot where I was going with that sentence. Oh, my wife. I love that everyone just had to get wifed up. So we have like Lorcan and the lead who aren't actually married, but a lead tried to
Fake
be like-
dating, bitch. Okay.
Well, and a lead was like, he's my husband. I belong to him. Sorry, uncle. Type deal.
Wait, sorry, that was like a really jarring moment when the uncle
Vernon.
Yeah.
I forgot
and
about
she
that.
like has to fight him off, and like
Yeah.
Mhm.
that was actually really, I got chills because she was like fighting for her life.
Yeah.
Well, and he was
Lorcan
like,
comes
"Oh, Lorcan left you," or whatever.
And that the town was just like, yeah, we'll give her up. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy.
But yeah,
Yeah.
everyone gets wifed up in this one.
They do. This is the book where everybody gets wifed.
Yeah,
This is
even
the series
even
where everybody
Adie and
gets wifed.
Lysandra, even though they aren't, he's still technically proposed. Like,
Yeah, we know he was serious.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, he was one of those that's like, we could get married if you want. Just kidding.
I mean,
am I?
So, if we're both single when we're 30, we could get married.
Yeah.
He's like,
or like 25.
he's like,
Or like,
Today.
next year.
no, we should definitely not get married.
Yeah. Yeah,
Unless-
everyone gets wifed up in this book.
They do.
Yeah, I was actually kind of cackling at that because I was like, okay, surely a lead and Lorcan, no, but yes.
They do.
And I was like, okay, so literally everyone.
They do.
Everyone.
Mhm.
I told y'all, I thought that they were not going to be together. So then when they got together, I was like, oh, I forgot this even happened. Like, it's fine. Like, whatever. It's
Well, I mean,
wonderful.
they're not anymore because she was like, you're going to rue the day that you were born. dude."
Yeah. I hope they end up back together. I liked them.
I think he has to go through, like, you
He
know,
has to go through
basically
some stuff.
what every man in the series has to go through, which is like, you can't be a pig-headed idiot and make rash
Yeah.
decisions. Like, you have to literally listen to your partner when they tell you something.
So
Yeah.
true, because all of the women in here have had to teach all of these men lessons, and I'm like, Sarah, what are you trying to say? Because it's triggering.
Yeah.
I need one of these men to like get it together on
I
their
feel
own.
like Rowan's kind of at that point.
But not, yes, but not really, because he had a whole situation where his partner dies for him to get to a point.
Oh, true.
Like,
I guess it's just pre this series.
yeah, yes.
Yeah. Can I read the line that I laughed at in this
Yeah.
book? Which
I love when you do
had
this.
It's a very serious moment, you know?
Okay.
So they just finished the battle on the ships, and they're like, Maeve wasn't here. Also, where's Aelin? And Dorian's like, I can feel Aelin out on the land. And they're like, what? And so then Dorian goes, because I can feel something out there. Dorian said, flame and shadow and death, like Lorcan and Aelin and someone else, someone ancient, powerful. Rowan braced himself for it, but he still wasn't ready for the pure terror when Dorian added, and female.
I knew it. I knew that line.
And you know what's just so funny to me is that they are all so shocked.
Yeah, they're like, what?
Not only that, but they're all so shocked that the Vogue could be women. And I'm like,
yeah.
What?
First off, why do they even have genders to begin with? They're fucking creatures. Like,
Yeah, I
do
agree.
It just made me laugh so hard when it was like, it's ancient and powerful
and
female.
And they're like,
oh my god, it's not one of the Vogue kings.
you're telling me it's not RA1.
You tell
the heck up.
You mean to tell me
You've been messing with the Shadow Man?
They just out. I mean,
He's very charismatic.
I mean, maybe they didn't think women were a thing because of how they were trying to have babies with the witches.
Yeah. They were like, this worked with Maeve at one point, so maybe. Yeah, I don't know. They're just not, the guys are just not very smart. Okay? They're not.
This was a good moment. Time to read my highlights.
Okay.
Aelin frightens everyone. He snorted. This is Kale talking to Irene about Aelin and Rowan. Aelin frightens everyone, he snorted, but not him. I think that's why she fell in love with him, against her best intentions. Rowan beheld all Aelin was and is, and he was not afraid.
Oh, I did remember that line. I was
Why
like,
does that sound like a Bible verse?
it's a Lorcan 1-2. It's like, I do remember that line. I was like, wow, Kale, okay, you get it.
Mm-hmm.
He did some growing, okay? He did some growing.
He knows the gospel truth now.
He does know. He's one of the disciples.
Yes. Kale, the disciple of who would be the equivalent of Jesus? Aelin.
I mean, it's got to be Aelin. She gets crucified.
Yeah, it's Aelin, obviously.
I said it and I was like, Aelin.
You're like,
Yeah, I figured that out. She's seeing ghosts and shit. Like, yeah.
Yeah,
that's right. There was a quote from Tower of Dawn that I really liked. On page 302, if anyone wants to turn in their Bibles. But it just says, it's like when Sartok and I don't know if I'm saying his name right, but whatever. And Nezrin are kind of like first going on their little adventure. And he's talking about how she's like the arrow of Neith or Ninth or whatever. And she's like also kind of talking to him about his titles, and like she's like, do you like what people call you? And He's like, no, I mean, like, I don't really think about it, whatever, but people call you this. And he's like, do you like that? And she says it's strange, I suppose, to become a story while you're still alive.
Mm.
And I liked that line because I was like, damn.
I also liked, I didn't highlight this one, but when she's like talking to the spider, like trying to buy time, but she's, I forget what the title is that she gives the spider, but it's like just talking about how she loves stories. And I'm like, cute.
Yeah.
Nesrin, you do have a personality outside of Kale.
She does. She just needed to not be with him. That's why I like Sir Talk, though, because he's like, you know, king of the rooks, basically. You know, he's the next heir. He's got it going on. You know, Nesrin, not a bad choice, I think, if you like that.
I love Nesrin, okay? I will not let you sit here and talk badly about my woman.
No, I liked her. I liked her.
What?
She just needed to not be with Kale.
I dare. Is my woman.
My wife.
My wife.
My wife. I went and got her from the spiders myself. Anyway.
Yeah. She is about to be a whole empress, and she did that so fast.
She did. She truly did.
That,
you know, you did say something about her earlier about how she's so strong with her convictions and kind of like how she knows that Aelin is like her queen or whatever. And I think that carried into this book because obviously that was from a previous book, right?
Yeah.
And I think that carried so well into Tower of Dawn when like she first comes in and she's like, I live on the other continent and like my family is there, but like I also have family here. And everyone is kind of like, why are you the captain of the guard for like, you know, the white folk up front? Yeah. Like, why are you doing that? And she's like, because I believe in, you know, Aelin and I believe in like, you know, help like basically getting this group to like come and fight and blah, 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 blah. And I did like that kind of like stability in her character, because sometimes I feel like characters can regress from like book to book. But she definitely is still like that, you know what I mean? That character that's like, no.
Well, and I feel like these ones, because in the earlier books in the series, we did have some of that where they would like make all this progress and then you'd get to the next book and it felt like we were starting back at square one. And I think that like did show some of Sarah's like progression as a writer, because in these two, I feel like we're finally like jumping off from where we were in the previous books, where it finally feels like people aren't regressing, they're starting from where they last were. And I really appreciated that.
Moving forward. The timelines all make sense too. There's no like time jumps between books or whatever.
Yeah. Maybe that's why I like Nesrin so much, is I feel like she was never a character that regressed in what she like believed in. Yeah, she's a very steadfast character, and I think that's an important thing to have in these types of books, especially because of the way that like I think a lot of the regression in my like understanding of it comes from like, because Aelin is so I guess like to herself, she doesn't like to bring people in on things because she's afraid it's going to get them hurt or whatever. Like people begin to question, well, are you hiding something because you don't think that we can handle it or that we can help you? And they start to regress in thinking that she can do what she says she's going to do because she's so like unwilling at times to bring people into it without them realizing that it's just because she doesn't want them to die. And Nesrin has always just been like, she doesn't have that type of relationship, I guess, with Aelin, because they don't really have, like, they have a respect, obviously, but like she doesn't have the same type of relationship with Aelin as many of the other characters do.
Well, I feel like Nesrin and Lysandra are very similar in that way too.
Yeah.
Where Lysandra, she at this point just fully trusts Aelin, and is that now person in Aelin's confidence where she'll just do what she has to do for her.
I love
It's
Lysander.
like, if I'm gonna be you forever, I'm gonna be you forever, baby.
Yeah.
And I'll still sleep with your cousin.
I will marry.
Woo! Ah, that baby's gonna be confused, but it's fine. At least they'll have a baby.
Crazy. Ooh, speaking of babies, I was so scared we were gonna get a pregnancy in this one. There was that hot moment where Aelin is sick.
Oh
and
yeah.
Rowan's
Yes.
like, "Are you?" And she's like, "No." And he's like, "Are you taking something for that?" And she's like, "No." And I was like, if we have a surprise pregnancy in this one, I'm out. I'm out of here. I'm so sorry.
It's been real, but I got
I'm
it.
gonna go join Miss Sarah's shelves and come back.
That whole part was so funny.
And it was just that she was just stressed.
Yeah.
It's like
I
revealed.
literally Huh? No, go ahead.
Well, it was revealed that she was just like stressed and upset because she knew that it was her mate and that she was gonna have to die. So
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah. That's like one of those things, like I have said this before, I know you guys have too, but like when they have the riddle, but like the riddle just doesn't make sense.
mm-hmm.
It was like, what was it? Nameless is the price.
Yeah.
That was the
Uh-huh.
riddle. They were saying that so much in this book, and I was like, nameless is the price. I still to this day I'm like,
I still don't really get that one.
that's a stretch. Like, I don't know. But yeah. I mean, it's not a stretch, I guess, but I would have figured that out. Like, Aelin figured it out immediately. She was like, oh my God, not only am I going to be the price, but my mate is going to suffer because of this. I just would have been like, dumb.
Yeah, I really don't understand the nameless thing still. I'll be real.
Yeah. I mean, I know that she just has like the mark, the like bastard mark, and that's like why she's nameless. But also I'm like,
Yeah.
where did the bastard mark come from? How is she a bastard again? I forget these things because it seemed like everybody was married the whole time. I don't know.
No clue.
How bad would it be to be Elena in this series? You know what I mean? Like just a fucking idiot. Literally.
To be that
Did
dumb.
the wrong spell or whatever.
To be like, oh.
Oops.
And then she like literally does this weird thing where like she saves Aelin from the river. And then her soul is just gonna be disappearing after this. Like her soul's just dissipated.
Her soul to take, you know?
Well, and I was trying to figure out, like, her dad, like, had a solution, right?
Yeah,
Her
he had a
father?
full-on plan, but because
He had
she
a
like
full-on
stole the
plan, and she
key-
was like, actually, I'm gonna try and do something.
yeah,
And she, like, ruined it for everyone.
yeah, because I think his power was fading or whatever, so she was worried because she was like, oh, I don't want him to have to do it. But that was the whole point. It's like his power was fading, so he wanted to sacrifice himself.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to sacrifice himself. Okay. Sorry.
No,
But, yeah. But he was going to sacrifice himself because he was already like a dying ember anyway. And then that's when he was like, no, you idiot.
You idiot.
What the hell? He's
No, Aelin, you can't.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah, you can't.
But you can, and she did. So there's that.
Wowie
Yeah.
zowie.
I think that's Murder She Wrote, you know, like all I've got.
Tapped out.
We've done 2 hours.
We're doing great, sweetie. You know, I think the only other thing is we have favorite moments, favorite scenes. You know, I think we kind of talked about it, but
what wasn't my favorite? You know,
I already said my favorite moment was in Skulls Bay.
The moments between in Skulls Bay. In reflection, I enjoyed Tower of Dawn much more than I did the first time. And I do apologize to Kale at this point in time.
Thank you. I'll accept the apology for him.
Thanks. I appreciate that because he was really annoying me.
I'll never apologize, but I will say that I get him now, you know?
Yeah, like I understand him. And it was cute when they went on the dinner date and he was like, I've literally never done this except for my birthday with Selena.
Oh, that's so true.
And yeah, like that was sweet. And she was like, you've never like gone to dinner? Yeah, she's like, you fucking loser. Like,
I do think that like I've never hated Kale. He just was annoying. So it was nice to like have this story with him and to see like little things about him. And I really like Irene. And Tower of Dawn was a surprise to me because I really thought that I was going to hate it. I didn't love it. It definitely wasn't my favorite, but it could have been like because I was the only one here who didn't tandem read. So it was kind of like jarring to go from one pacing to the other. But like I said, it was a nice reprieve because Empire Storms is breakneck.
yeah.
But I don't know. Empire Storms, we never set our ratings. I know, Catherine, you don't rate. But I mean, I gave Empire Storms 5 out of 5, baby.
Oh, yeah. That's a 5 stars.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I feel like I can't really separate the two because I read them so intertwined with the tandem read. And the like way that I did it, I really can't separate the two. But I think I said at the beginning, like, this is when I finally was like, I'm really liking this series. I think these are definitely my favorites thus far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this is the beginning of the end. You know what I mean?
I am so nervous.
We really should, like, I don't know if you guys have started Kingdom of Ash, but like we really should. Well, obviously, Catherine, you haven't, but we really should try and that was because you just finished it last night. That was not because of whatever that came off as. But
no, that was
what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I want to try and read that.
Like, together, so we can all cry together.
Can't wait to ugly cry.
Yeah, I'm not going to be okay in Kingdom of Ash. I already know.
Yeah, you're really not. I remember not being well for like a while. I'm sorry. I don't want you guys to think that it's going to be cute. It is going to be cute in some ways. But like, this is the end. This is a 1,000-page conclusion to this.
I'm not going to be able to start until January. So it's like, I love starting off my year like this, you know, devastated.
I'm going to try and start it this week. So.
Oh.
Yeah. Spicy.
Going right into it.
She's a track star.
She's a track star.
Mm-hmm. I think I figured it out. If I do a book a week, I can be done with all the SJM before the third Crescent City comes out. So
I forgot that you were doing that.
Yeah, I'm gonna be in trouble with my coworkers if I don't finish before. So
it's fine as long as you're present for the live shows. I'll permit it.
Yeah. Also, we may or may not be having a midnight release party for the third Crescent City. So.
Well, let me just go ahead and buy my ticket right now.
Not confirmed yet. Not confirmed, but
don't tempt me.
Possibly.
I shall fly if I need to. I'll get my wyvern.
Oh, you don't
come to New York?
You don't think the LA one will have one?
I have no idea.
I'm sure if the New York one has one, the LA one probably.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah, we'll see. Cool. Well, The elephant in the room, I think the one thing we really haven't talked about is the fact that Sarah's not here, which I do want to address that really quickly.
Oh,
She
yeah.
didn't get kicked out of the group or anything.
I realized we've talked about it, so I was like, what do you mean?
Yeah. Yeah. We know. Sarah just DNF'd the series, so she is going to come back in ACOTAR, basically. So,
but she will be back for ACOTAR.
Yes.
That's what she says. So I'm hoping. Here's hoping she likes it better than this series, which is understandable because there's a lot going on here.
I feel like if Sarah can get it to Mist and Fury, I think she'll like it.
Honestly, I feel like Silver Flames would probably be her favorite of all the books.
Well, yeah.
she's read.
I'm excited for that because that is the only one in the ACOTAR world that I haven't read. And I know that people always talk about like Nesta's story resonating with them because she goes through so much. And I'm ready for that.
Oh my gosh, I hadn't realized that you haven't read Silver Flames yet.
Yeah, the only ones that I hadn't read from Sarah were like obviously the rest of the Throne of Glass from Empire Storms to the End, and then that Silver Flames one, and then I haven't read the second Crescent City because I was spoiled.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for you.
I'm excited too because
I think in the ACOTAR series, Mist and Fury and Silver Flames are my favorites.
Oh, well then that says all I need because I always joke that Mist and Fury is the greatest standalone to ever stand alone.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize you liked that book that much. I'm realizing.
Okay, this is so funny because Sydney was talking to me not that long ago about how she was like, I didn't even know you liked Sarah J. Maas, and I was like, I have read A Court of Mist and Fury like 5 times. I still own like an original copy of the paperback and the old covers, and it's like so torn up because I used to just read it when I was sad.
Aww. It's so good.
Silver Flames
it's so good.
Is so not like the other ACOTAR books though. I don't know if you're gonna like it. We'll see.
I mean, I'm not going in with any expectations except that I'm hoping that I'll really like Nesta because I love Cassian. So I just like.
Oh. Yeah. Honestly, I think it's good that we read this series first because we've seen so much of the way that she uses POVs to like manipulate how the audience loves or hates a character.
Yeah.
And I think that really comes through in the ACOTAR series. Like that is so important in that series.
I'm so excited to have that discussion.
Yes, especially in Silver Flames. Like I can't wait to talk about it again.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll get into it. Okay, well, back to this. I think we're done for the night, unless we have any other, burning questions, comments, concerns, a little bit of poetry. We'll do a little, you know what I'm saying, for you guys, if you want.
Please just end the live.
Yeah. So we are going to be reading Kingdom of Ash for a while. I am not sure if we have a live show date nailed down for that one. But you for sure have the entirety of December and also the beginning of January to read it. So when we know, you guys will know. Yeah. Hello. And we'll figure it out. Going forward, we'll be continuing with ACOTAR after we finish with Kingdom of Ash. And I believe we're going to be going on a 1 book a month schedule to kind of like slow down the pacing a little bit. We kind of did breakneck for Throne of Glass, got through it. And that's kind of how we're going to do the discussions going forward. Now, if you want to do what Catherine does and you do 1 book a week, go ahead, girl. Go ahead, get down. Highly recommend. Because obviously we are doing this because we want to get to Crescent City and like the new book that's coming out in early next year. But I won't be getting to that one on time. I'm going to be honest with you guys.
Yeah, that one comes out January 30th. So
what did we decide on who's getting which copies of Crescent City.
I'm
Or
doing Walmart.
I'm getting the indie one.
so Sarah and I are either getting Barnes and Noble or Target, right?
I think so.
I think so. I want to say that you said you were doing Target.
Okay.
And I
Good.
want to say that Sarah said Barnes and Noble.
Because they all just have different, like the special.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have different bonus chapters.
Yes. So, put in our little pre-orders now.
Yes, you comfort listen to the audiobook of Mist and Fury. We are the same. Sorry.
Maybe that's why she was listening to them on audio. I've never done ACOTAR on audio.
They're really good.
I knew they probably are.
I've read it physically many times, but then like the last reread I did of it, I listened to it on audiobook.
Did you do the fancy audiobook?
I'm surprised I didn't. I think I want to, like, not this time around because I want to actually like experience the whole book. But I think whenever I want to do like a random reread of it, I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
Because it's abridged, so that's why
Mm-hmm.
I never do those.
Because it's a lot of the dialogue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because I was actually going to do the Red Rising series that way, and then somebody was like, it's abridged, don't do that. And I was like, oh, good to know.
Yeah.
There's always something. There's always something. Yeah, so that's it. That's all I wanted to say. We'll let you guys know. We're going to do a little blasty, but we're going to get through holiday first. So we'll come back in the new year stronger than ever, and talking about the last book in Art of Glass. It'd be crazy. Huh. Anyway, okay, we're going to go. We love you guys. Have a great night.
Good
and
night.
We'll see you in the new year.
Oh my God.
Bye.